Okay, hello everybody. I'm back. And since told you in my first video that I'm a black man, you can see my hand, you can see my face, and you see I'm a black person. And like I said in my first video, people generally don't listen to black men. Generally, I mean some people do, but generally they don't. But I said to myself, I'm gonna say it anyway. First thing, let me say this, and I don't want to use foul language, but I was watching something the other day about them building this community out in Arizona, whites only. And I can see what they're trying to do, but it's not really other races that is destroying America. Sometimes it's just the white power structure. They're the ones who are destroying America. Now, why would you want to build a city where you only allow white people? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, the world is multicultural. The world itself is multicultural. But we keep separating ourselves. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. It's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. Look around you. Now, for all those who don't know, a group of black people got together a couple years ago, and they were going to build a black community. They were trying to buy the land and that kind of stuff. And from what I understand, and my understanding is not perfect, the people around the land that they were trying to buy found out that they were trying to build a black community, and they stopped it. I don't know what they did, but they stopped it. No, you can't do that. So let's see what happened with these people who are trying to build a white community. And I said this 100 times. I'm going to say it one more time. According to science, you not always have to believe in science, but according to science, we're all part of one race, which is the human race. There are really no races. We have become, humanity has become very color conscious. If you're this shade or that shade and blah, 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 it goes on and on and on and on. And that's what people base their knowledge on. What shade are you? And I tell you something else that's going to wreck the human race is not only is the color you are, but it's hair. Have you ever noticed how important hair is to people? They even made a musical about it some years ago. I think it was called Hair. But hair and skin color are seen to be extremely important to the human race. But anyway, today I'm gonna, since I'm a black person, I'm gonna talk about things that I think black people need to do. You don't have to agree with me, and I know a lot of people aren't, but this is America still, and I can voice my opinion about what I think is wrong with the human race. And this is one of the things that I think is wrong with black people, even though they're just another part of the human race. But in this rabbit hole we're in, I think we as colored black people with color, and we are at the bottom of this rabbit hole. Now, a lot of people say, no, we're not. No, we're not. And I don't have any proof of that. I have absolutely no proof whatsoever. So whatever I say, you have to take it with a grain of salt. Do your own research, because like I said in my first video, I'm too lazy and too old to do it. So you have to do it yourself. So as far as I can tell, we're at the bottom of this rabbit hole. And I was doing something the other day, and I was online, and a little rap tune came on. And I don't know. I mean, I don't listen to a lot of music. I'm a rock fan myself. I'm a classical music fan. I'm a, what do you call it? Not Western, folk music. I used to love folk music, I still do. So I'm not, but I listened to this rap tune. It was about 3 minutes, and it was completely full of filth. I mean, about fellatio and stuff, and I smell too good and get away from my private parts. I mean, it was nothing but filth. Now, this is a free country. You can make music however way you want to make it until the law says you can't do it. And there have been some laws before that say you can't say that on television, or you can't say that. But anyway, this stuff is completely filthy, completely filthy. And I said, why do they let them get away with that? But just like what I'm going to say in the video, that's how you make money. If you make a record that's completely filthy, that's how you make money. I remember seeing this video some time ago. This Caucasian girl, I think she had to be about maybe 20, 21. She was talking about her private parts. And she was saying how her private parts can be smelly, and sometimes they smell good, and sometimes they're messy, and sometimes they're dry. But she was on, I think it was a TikTok video, but I'm not sure. She was on camera talking about her private parts and how some guys like it smelly, Some guys like it smelling like roses. Some guys like it when it's wet. Some guys, I mean, what? I mean, is that something you want to say on television? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, and she was proud of it. So what can I say? But anyway, this message is for black people. I got 4 things that I think black people need to do if they're going to get any kind of respect. Now, don't misunderstand me. Even if they did everything correctly, they're still not going to get a lot of respect. Why? Well, they're black. They're African American or African, so they're going to be at the bottom regardless of what you do. But it can make you, in a way, respect yourself, regardless of what they say. You can in your heart and in your mind, you say, "Well, I'm good. I'm good." Yeah. I remember seeing this video where they were asking people in China, "What do you think about black people?" And they got this one guy, and he said, "Well, they can play basketball, they can play football, they can sing, they can dance." And I think rap wasn't as popular then, but he said they can sing and dance. But then what caught me right at the end, he said, this is what he said, quote, "But they are almost always involved in some sort of criminal activity," end quote. So, and my wife, she says, "Well, that was just one man." But multiply by that 40 million other men who think the same way. But his idea of black people were, we can do X, Y, Z, and W, but we're almost always involved in some sort of criminal activity. Now, I ask yourself, are you involved in any kind of criminal activity right now? Do you know black people who are not involved in criminal activity? Because there are a lot of people who are involved in criminal activity because they got it all over the news. Anytime a black person does something, he kills another person or he runs over some person, it's all over the news. And everybody forgets about Timothy McVeigh. Now, in case you don't know who Timothy McVeigh is, Timothy McVeigh killed over 160 people, including women and children, in one fell swoop. He killed all those people because he was angry with the government. Well, who isn't angry with the government? But I noticed this thing with P. Diddy. It's all over the news. Now, I know what P. Diddy, in essence, was wrong. You can't take advantage of a woman's vagina without her agreeing to it, But from what I understand, he either raped or had sex with a lot of women, and some of them liked it and some of them didn't, and all that kind of thing. You can't compare that with Timothy McVeigh and killing 160 some people all at one time, including women and children. You can't compare those two crimes. There's no comparison. Anyway, so let me get started here. What must black people do in order to get some kind of respect from themselves, others, and maybe from themselves? Number one, we got to get away from the weed. I know a lot of people are going to say, I need my weed. You got to get away from that. That's just a trap. Weed is just a trap. Why do you think the government legalized it? It's just a trap. It's to get you high. You get you high and you're worthless. I mean, some people can function the same way with it or without it, but that's rare. Out of every 100 people, maybe 6 can do weed and don't bother them. The other 90 some, they're going to be strung out. They're going to be strung out. What good are they if they're strung out? Well, that's the trap they're in. So not only have to get rid of weed, get away from it as best you can. For those who are addicted, I don't know what to tell you, but you got to get away from alcohol. You got to get away from cocaine, heroin. You got to get away from cigarettes. I remember going in the grocery store one day, and this guy was in front of me, a black man in front of me at the window, and he was buying some cigarettes. And the lady told him when he got the cigarettes, she said, the price went up. And he said, the price went up? And she said, yeah, I smoked myself. She said, I was surprised the price went up in the cigarettes. So he said, well, okay. So he went and paid the extra money anyway. So anyway, he got out to his car, and I followed him out after I got my purchase. He rolled his window down. And I said, listen to what they're doing. I said, cigarettes are just a trap, brother. I said, what they're doing is they're making you pay more to help you kill yourself. You're paying more for the cigarettes than you did 6 months ago. And what's that doing? They're forcing you to pay more so you can kill yourself quicker or get so sick you might as well be dead. So those are the things we got to get away from that. If we don't get away from that, we're going to stay in the rabbit hole. We're going to stay in it anyway. And help yourself and help other people who are in that. letting them know cigarettes, alcohol, weed and stuff. It's just a trap that's been set. Now I know what a lot of people say. Well, white people do it also. Mexicans do it. The Chinese do it. Well, Tariq Nasheed is a guy I kind of listen to every once in a while, and he said something in one of his videos. He said they don't mind sacrificing a few of their own, as long as they can kill a whole bunch of us. They can sacrifice a few of their own. And what are they going to say? Well, it's their fault. We didn't tell them to get high and get drunk and run over. We didn't, So they'll sacrifice a few Caucasians to get at you. Now, why? Well, that's the word. Let me say this before I go any further. To me, and this is just me, I know you can disagree. To me, I used to say the world is headed to hell on a slow train. The world is headed to hell on a slow train, and there's nothing we can do about it. We're all on the train. We can't get off. But I had to change that because it's not the world. Like my friends once said, it's the people in the world. I don't think there's anything wrong with the American law, the way the laws are written, and most of them. I mean, some of them are obviously prejudiced, but the way the laws are written, there's nothing wrong with it. It's the people who run the law. They're the ones who got it all screwed up. They're the ones who have it screwed, and not the law itself. What's prejudice about a stop sign? Absolutely nothing. It's a stop sign. You can't say the stop sign is prejudice because it's part of the law, but it's the people who run the law. They're the ones who are screwing it up. So anyway, you gotta get away from weed. The second thing is you have to get an education. And education is crucial. At least right now it is, because I saw a video not long ago where this educator was saying, come in a distant future, not day after tomorrow, but in a distant future, an education won't be needed. Why? AI is going to do everything. Why would you need to go to college for 4 years when AI can answer any question you want answered in a matter of a second? Why would you need a college education? I told my wife not long ago, downtown Chicago, I live not too far from Chicago, you got all these tall buildings downtown Chicago. Now, here's a question for you. What are those tall buildings used for? Well, generally, not in every case, but generally they're office buildings. Those are office buildings. Now, what happens in an office? Well, you have clerical work, people doing clerical work. I used to work for a company. We had the whole 11th floor? We had the whole 11th floor to ourselves. And there was over 100 employees there. And there was only two black men, myself and another guy. But most of the ladies there were Caucasian. And what were they doing? They were doing clerical work. Now, clerical work is one thing that AI is extremely good at because it's just a lot of information. All those jobs will be replaced in a matter of a month. Why? Because AI can do all that clerical stuff. I mean, AI can read a book in, 4 minutes. So when it comes to putting in data here and data there about this and that other, AI can do that in no time. All it has to do is be programmed correctly, and it can do it. So, but still, right now, you have to quickly get yourself an education. You have to do that. Because if you don't have an education, I mean, you can still get a job, and sometimes you get a really good job without it. But in a lot of cases, 9 cases out of 10, they're going to want you to be able to read and write. They're going to want you to be arithmetic and mathematics. You have to do some algebra. You may have to do some trigonometry and that kind of stuff. Chemistry, you got to know some. I mean, even if your job doesn't include that kind of stuff, they want you to know something about it anyway, which they call the basics. You got to have the basics. If you don't have the basics, then people have a tendency to take your resume and throw it in the trash as soon as you walk out. Why? Because they want somebody who's at least partially educated. But according to what this guy said, a few years from now, an education really won't be needed. The next thing is, I know we say the police are killing black people. The police this, the police that, the police this, the police that. And if you ever want to watch a good show, watch this show called, this video called The Civil Rights Lawyer. That's the name of his channel, The Civil Rights Lawyer. And he shows you all these times that people have been stopped for little or nothing end up getting thrown to the ground, end up getting handcuffed, getting yelled at, and all that kind of thing. Because some of these policemen, you would think policemen would know better. I mean, even criminals know, for the most part, a lot of them know there are cameras everywhere. And the police have on the camera on their body, and they still act stupid. Come on now, you're a policeman. Cameras are everywhere. People got cameras on their phones. And you're going to yell and scream at people, throw people to the ground for no reason? What kind of training are they getting? Excuse me. What kind of training are they getting? What kind of training are they getting? And I watched this show. I hate watching it because it shows innocent people being thrown to the ground, talked to like they're a dog and stuff like that. But they talk about policemen murder this, policemen murder that, policemen murder this, policemen murder that. Okay, I understand where they're coming from. But here's the one thing black people got to understand. Oftentimes, we're the ones who are doing the murdering. If a policeman murder one person every day, 360 people, 365 people a year, you had 100 policemen doing that, killing all those black people, it would still take thousands of years before you could get rid of the black population. You wouldn't be able to do that in a couple of years. It would take thousands of years to decrease the black population simply by a policeman killing somebody every once in a while. But you oftentimes hear on the news where a group of black men, sometimes women, teenagers, they get into these shooting matches they got their 9mm, and they get into these shooting matches and they end up killing one another. And next thing you know, some families going to the funeral home to pick out a casket, and they're crying their eyes out, and they keep saying, "This has got to stop. This has got to stop." And I used to say that too, but just by saying this has got to stop, this is not doing any good, because some of these young black men and women who are criminal, who have a criminal disposition, they don't care nothing about that. It's just another trap. A black person killing another black person is just another trap set by the dominant power. They want you to do that. They love to see you do that. Matter of fact, I had said to myself, if I'm ever at a gas station and I see two black guys trying to get into a fight, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell them stop. Not stop the fight. Stop. Let me get some white people over here, because they love to see us fighting. So don't waste the whole fight. And no white people around to record it. It's just a wasted fight. You just beat up the other guy for nothing. So I'm going to say stop the fight. Let me get some white people over here to watch this, and they'll be happy. They'll go home and have a good dinner. It's two Negroes, pounding each other on the head, for whatever reason, So all I can say is, if you have a 9mm, I'm thinking about getting a gun myself, but I'm definitely not gonna hope I don't have to kill anybody, and I definitely don't want to kill another black person. I mean, what's the point? I see this picture of Muhammad Ali. Now I don't know who Muhammad Ali was. I don't follow boxing. I'm sure he's a nice guy. He did some nice things. He gave to charity and all that kind of stuff. But this classic picture of Muhammad Ali standing over, who was it, Cassius? No, not Cassius. Standing over one of the other black boxers that he had knocked down, and he was standing over with his fist, and that's considered a classic picture. That's a classic boxing picture right there. That tells you everything about boxing right there. This one guy who was the champion or something, I guess, he had been defeated by Muhammad Ali. Now, a lot of people look at that. It's a classic picture. It's classic. That tells you the story of boxing. But what do I see when I see that picture? All I see is one black man beating up on another one. That's what I see. One black man is showing the world that I can beat up on this other black man. Now, a lot of boxing enthusiasts, they don't see it that way, but that's just simply the way I see it. So what we can do is stop blaming the police for everything that happens to us. It's not always the police. A lot of times it is, but it's not always the police. It's us killing each other. Police do it. Yeah, they do it. It's expected. They're white. They do it. And I don't mean anything against white people. I mean, white people, what can I tell you? If it wasn't for white people, we would probably still be slaves. I saw this video once, a few months ago. I didn't watch the whole thing. But the title of the video was, "The Slaves Freed Themselves." I can't prove one way or another, but my thing is how could the slaves free themselves? They didn't have no guns. They didn't speak the language. They were outnumbered. Maybe I'll watch that video. But the title was "The Slaves Freed Themselves," and I say no. If it wasn't for some decent white people, we will still be slaves because we had to have help. We couldn't do it by ourselves. We were slaves. We were in chains. Okay, okay. We got to stay away from the weed. We got to stop killing each other and fighting over nothing. And now the other thing is, now Miss Chris Welsing said in one of her videos, Mrs. Chris Welsing, I think I got that right. She's a brilliant woman. She died a few years ago, but she said we as black people, we are becoming a race of entertainers. Now, don't misunderstand me. I watch football myself sometimes. If you're talented, if you have the talent and the expertise and you practice, you can become good at it. And let's face it, that's where the money is. Football, rapping is like football. You rap a few tunes, young people go crazy over it, you make a lot of money, you become wealthy, and you leave everybody else behind. Now, that's not always the case. A lot of football players are rich and they give to charity and do all kinds of stuff behind the scenes, but you don't hear about it up front now. You have to find out by accident because the power structure don't want you to see black people doing good. They want you to see us smoking weed and wrecking the car and beating up on the woman, that kind of stuff. They get a whole bunch of kick out of that. But when it comes to a black person doing something good, you know, everybody does it. I saw a program just yesterday where there's two brothers, I think in Chicago, I'm not sure about the city, but they had these young black boys teach them how to play basketball and teach them the rules of the sport and how sportsmanship can build manhood and all that kind of stuff. And they were out, they were having fun, they were playing basketball, but I told my wife, it's still just a form of entertainment. I mean, if you got a heart disease, who you gonna call? A basketball player or a doctor? So I really don't see anything wrong with the two brothers starting a camp for basketball. I mean, okay, it's basketball, okay. But let me see two brothers start a camp for advanced mathematics. Let me see a brother or a sister start a camp where we're gonna learn chemistry, or we're gonna learn how to lay bricks, or do plumbing, or do electrical work, or learn how to fly airplanes. I mean, let me see one of those camps where some black person has stepped forward with a little bit of money. We're gonna have a camp. We're gonna teach arithmetic. This whole camp is about arithmetic. We're not gonna play basketball or football or play basketball. We're gonna teach arithmetic. You're not gonna see that. Why? Why won't you see that? Because, as Miss Chris Welsing said, we have become a race of entertainers. We entertain. That's what we do. We entertain. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I watch comedy myself. I mean, you know, black people acting a fool. It's funny. I'm old enough to remember Amos and Andy. A lot of people don't even know who that is, but I remember Amos and Andy. It was a comedy. Black people acting goofy and cheating one another. It was funny. But I can say the same thing about the Honeymooners. These two white guys were goofy. They were funny. But I don't look at every white person to be like Ralph and Norton. I know white people are better than that. But a lot of people, they see us on camera acting stupid and acting goofy, and they say, well, that's how they all are. They're all stupid and goofy. Because that's what they want us to be. They want us to be stupid and goofy. And that's where their money is. You get on stage and you tell a lot of jokes, black jokes, it doesn't matter, and you make money. But I would love to see some black people with a little bit of money get together and say, okay, we're going to have a chemistry workshop. We're going to teach you chemistry, whether the schools do it or not. Now, let me tell you a little story. In Alabama, where I was from, our school didn't have a chemistry class. And about a year or so before I graduated, they came in and put in a whole chemistry lab. It was beautiful, a whole chemistry lab. But here's the tricky part. Nothing was hooked up. It was a sham. It was a sham. Somebody said something to the government. I think George Wallace was the governor at the time. Somebody might have said something to him. He said, well, we got to act like we're going to teach them chemistry, but we're not going to really teach them chemistry. We're going to put a lab in there, but we're not going to hook anything up. It's just going to be a sham. And when I graduated, the lab still wasn't hooked up. Now, here's the other tricky part. From what I understand, and I can't prove anything, 6 miles down the road at the all-white school, they had a fully functioning chemistry lab. a fully functioning chemistry lab. At my school, an all-black school, they a year or so before I graduated, it came in and put in a chemistry lab that looked pretty, but it was just a sham. It wasn't a chemistry lab. Take what you want out of that. So there's nothing wrong with basketball, football, rapping, singing, and dancing. I mean, every race does it. But it's almost as if that's all they want us to do. They don't want us to do anything else. Hey, my name is Jonathan Troonhaven. You know, I'm from Italy. Well, here the union says we need some more electricians. Well, I'm Jomoka Wilson, Canada. I'm looking for a job. Well, can you sing? Can you dance? Let me hear you rap a few lines for me. And it's as if that's all they want us to do. It's almost as if, especially with the basketball and stuff like that, we see a lot of rich basketball players on TV, a lot of them, commercials surrounding them. And it's like that's what they want to show our young people, because our young people get tied up in that, and it's just another trap. They get tied up in that, and they want to do that too. Well, they want to make money. I want to rap. I want to play basketball. I want to sing and dance. I can make money. But when I need an electrician, am I going to call a rapper? I'm going to call an electrician. So you got to be mindful of that. Now, if you have the talent to play basketball, football, rap, and all that kind of stuff, if you have that kind of talent, well, yeah. Well, the problem is a lot of people who don't have the talent think they can do it. They think they can do it because they see other black people doing it. So be mindful of that. Be completely mindful of that. Now, the last thing is protesting. Okay, now one of a poet from some years ago, I kind of remember his name, but I don't want to say it because this may not be attributed to him. But I'm going to paraphrase what he said. He said, there's nothing wrong with understanding that we were once slaves. There's nothing wrong with understanding how we are being mistreated here in this country. There's nothing wrong with that. We have to know our history. But what he said was what caught me. He said, don't drown yourself in it. And a lot of people, even myself sometimes, I get tired of hearing about slavery. Okay, we were slaves. And then everybody jumped on, can't think of the girl's name now. I can see her face, but she made a video where she said, black people were not the only people who were ever enslaved. Other races have been enslaved. Italians, Romans, Greeks, British, you name it, Germans. Every race at some point in history, and like I said, don't forget, we're all just one human race, but I have to say it the way they say it. Pretty much every race, I can't prove it, do your own research. Every race in history has been enslaved at one time or another. What a lot of people don't like to admit, and from my history, and I may be wrong, but black in Africa used to enslave other blacks. Where do you think the whole idea of head hunting comes from? That comes from blacks who, in one village, they raid another village, they kill their men, they some kind of way shrink the heads and they wear it around. Black people were doing that. Black people were doing that. So we were enslaving ourselves. The Romans enslaved other Romans. The Greeks enslaved other Greeks. But some kind of way, they got over it. They got past it. But it seems like we can't get past it. Whenever we get upset about something, we bring up slavery. Okay, we were slaves. And this is what I'm going to say about it. We were slaves. Okay, we were slaves. Get over it. And in some instances, we still are slaves. But get over it. You got to get over that wall and keep going. You can't let that drag you down. Like the guy said, you can't wallow or drown yourself in the fact that we are mistreated. Okay, we were slaves. Okay, you just can't let that stop you. And from what I can see, we get out here, we protest sometimes about slavery, reparations. They keep talking about reparations. I don't think we're going to get reparations, but that's just my opinion. But they get out here, we march, we sing all those sad songs. Oh my goodness! When black people are marching, they sing them songs like, oh, to me it's depressing. but they sing them sad songs and they tell them sad stories. And the white power structure, they're laughing at that. They're laughing. They're not laughing with us. They're laughing against us, or however the saying goes. They're not laughing with us. They're laughing at us. So here's my message, and you can disagree. You should disagree, but get over slavery. Okay, we was okay. We were slaves. Our ancestors were treated very badly, extremely badly. But so were the other races who were slaves. They were treated very badly too. They were treated very badly. So those are my four things that I think black people can do to give themselves a little upward hand. And two of the most popular to me is, number one, get off the drugs. Get off of that. That's just a trap set for you. Get off of it. Let it go. Ronald Reagan's wife said it years ago, just say no. I mean, that's a simplistic way to put it, but just say no and get off of it. Get off of it. And the second thing is, get yourself an education quickly. Get yourself an education, because according to this one educator, it's going to come a time when a college education won't be needed. Who's going to need it? Okay, well, listen, that's all I have. If I left anything out, and like I told you before, I'm not a professional speaker, so if I stumble or stammer and that kind of stuff, that's just, you have to accept that. That's the way it's going to be. But take the message that I'm trying to give to you. Take that and go with that. Okay.